And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. Now, this is a game which, when it showed up, it's a big box and everything, and I saw that it was, looked like armies all over a board and fighting over regions, and it says, the land of Kiev and Rus is in turmoil. Vladimir the Great died in 1015. You fight over it. Medieval realm building game. Okay, I've seen this before. I really thought I have. However, I will say when I saw the designer and realized this was the same guy who's done some games that I recently have really enjoyed, I was like, well, I'll certainly want to give this one a try. So this is, it looks like a war game. It's really not. It's an area control style game in which you're going to be placing out workers and taking actions on a main board. Let me show you. The game takes place over 4 rounds. Each of those rounds is going to do the same thing. The only difference is in rounds 3, everyone gets another level 2 worker, and in round 4, you get another level 3. The board's going to be initially seeded with resources. They're printed on the board, or you have optional tokens you could put out there so that you can change up where the resources are. There's going to be the rebels that are placed all over the board. They each have a resource secretly underneath them, and players are going to start with a few of their troops and a leader. Players are going to be choosing a leader at the beginning of the game or getting one randomly. Each leader has a special ability, and you'll take that leader, putting a colored base on to show that it's yours. In each round, the first thing that's done is a strategy phase. Players are going to be placing their workers on this board here, which actually, this is for 3 to 4 players, a 2-player board, or a solo board is the other side. On your turn, you can take any of your workers. So you'll start with 4, and you'll get another 2 and another 3 in the last couple turns. And you place it anywhere you want. Now, you always place it at the top. But if someone places one in that same spot that's higher than yours, it would move down. Although if they placed one in that same column that's the same number as yours, it would go below it. And then maybe later on, I would put a 4 here, which would shoot up to here, pushing these down like this. And so players are going to take turns putting these out until everyone has placed all of them. When you place somebody, you can actually place them with coins to increase their power. So I could put 4 coins with this number 1, making it a 5. So let's say the 2 wasn't there. I could shoot this all the way to the top, pushing everybody else down. At the end of the strategy phases, these 4s goes away, and it's still a number 1. And that's important because once this whole board is full of all the different workers of different types, then starting and going around a table in turn order, each player is going to do their number 1, then their number 2s, and 3s, and 4s, and 5s, removing it and doing the action that's listed there. First action is muster. The number of helmets that you have, here you'd have to pay a coin to get 1 helmet. The number of helmets is the number of troops that you can bring on the board in spots where you already have troops. Your leader counts as a troop, and so if for some reason they are killed or removed, you can bring them on the board like a regular troop. Movement is pretty simple. You just spend movement equal to the number of boots that you have, moving different troops around the board from location to location. Attack is going to let you attack either the rebels or another player. When you attack someone, you're just going to remove them. If you remove a rebel, you'll turn it over, and that's the resource that you get. If you decide to attack another player, you'll remove them. But then you must turn over the top card of the scheme deck and look at the bottom of it. Now, many cards of the scheme deck have nothing at the bottom, but some mean you will also be removed. One of your troops is removed. You draw 1 card always. You'll draw a 2nd card if your opponent controls the region, which means they have more there than anyone else. So if the white was in this region, decided to attack a yellow, they would draw 2 cards. And if they have a fortress in that region, then you would draw 3 cards, or an extra card for that. The most you can draw is 3 cards, but that's going to increase the chance of you dying when you attack opponent. Taxing is going to allow you to tax different regions on the board. When you tax a region, if you control the region, you simply spend 1 tax point to take the resource from that region. If you don't control a region, so if white wanted to take that one, they would have to spend 2 tax points to take that token from the region. When you take tokens from a region, you're going to be placing them on a board that's in front of you. This board here shows a boat, you can put them on the dock, or you can slide them directly onto the boat here. At the end of every turn, if you have a complete row of items, you're going to get extra money from turn to turn. So, for example, furs are very valuable because one fur will do that. But if you leave resources here, you might be able to spend them to get other victory points later on. When you build, for each build point, you get to build a building on the board. Players have 3 different buildings, 3 of each that they can build. A fortress will help you in defense. You have a church that when you build that, you can take another unit there and convert it into one of your types. And if you build a market, when you tax an area, you'll get a good there, plus an extra good or a coin if you want. Finally, there is the scheme. If you take the top one, you'll get the first player marker, which will let you place first next round. But you also can draw scheme cards. Draw 3, keep 1, draw 2, keep 1, get 1, pay a coin to get 1. These cards are basically extra actions. Remember, these are the same cards you use to see if you get killed in a fight. But here I get a build point and a coin. Here I get 2 tax points. Here I get 3 movement points. They're very similar to what's already out there. After all the players have done all the different actions on here, we're going to see if anyone scores points. Each player is going to check each column here in this claims track. So if you rule, which means you have more units than anyone else, 2 regions, 3 regions, 4 regions, 5 units, 5 regions, including the 2 central ones, you'll move up to the largest that you have. You'll never go down, so even if you lose regions, you'll stay there, but at the end of the game, you'll score points. Here for adjacent regions where you have stuff built, here for how many goods you have on the boat, and every time you fight in a battle, you move up on the warfare, and at the end of the game, whoever's farthest up in here gets 3 points, and second farthest up gets a point. Players are also going to get money for each token they have that's not on the board, plus 4 columns in their boat in between turns. Players are also going to take turns choosing deed cards. There's some deed cards that players will be able to take, and later on, if you give up the items on them, or you have buildings in an adjacent region, or whatever it says doing a card, you will get a bonus, and you'll score that card and get points at the end of the game. These are going to be mostly 1, but there's a few 2-point cards in here. After 4 rounds of this, that's the end of the game. Players will score for how high they got in these tracks for the cards that they've completed. Players will have a secret goal card at the beginning of the game, have the most coins, defeat the most rebels, accomplish the most deeds. If you've done these, you'll get an extra 2 points. Whoever has the most points is the winner. The components in this game are ridiculously nice. Now, I will say that 4 of my troops that I got had their legs broken off at the base. We were able to glue them back together. But just how nice these trays are. So the tray comes with the different buildings that you have in it. Once you put the different meeples in and all the wooden pieces, then your other plastic tray fits on top of that. They snap together like this. And then everything's going to fit into the box. I mean, the box is a sheet that shows where everything goes. Inside here, you have a spot for cards, you have a spot for all the different leaders, for all the different resources. In fact, during the game, you have this tray here, which has the resources, which are all different shapes and colors, and these are metal coins here. It's a really nice production. Each player has these 2 tokens that you'll put on your board. During the course of the game, you can use these to get an extra build point or to get an extra deployment if you spend extra resources. The boards themselves are really clear what to do. The rules were nice. I mean, other than the broken figures, I was pretty happy with the components for this game. They're almost too nice. There's just so much going on. The game looks bigger than it actually is. First of all, the game plays really smoothly. The only clunkiness I found in it was the card. So it's a little weird. You have these cards that you can score, but you draft these at the end of a phase. They're like sitting there face up. You draft them based on turn order. So going first is a big deal, taking one of these cards. But then one's revealed from the top of the deck, and that might be the exact one the next person needs. I just felt that that could have been done a little less clunkily. I'm not quite sure the best way to have done that. And also, there's 2 piles of the cards you flip over to see what happens in combat. For no other reason than there's 2 piles of cards. I didn't really get why that. You just didn't have one deck. Other than that, though, it's smooth, and in fact, it's almost too smooth. This game is an area control game about getting resources and stuff, and it's so smooth and so streamlined that the theme kind of disappears in the background. Yes, you're building buildings and fighting in different areas with combat, which is not kind of just, like I said, it's more area control. Take your guys out, put my guys in, try to control regions on the board. But it doesn't ever really feel like there's soldiers, and your leader has a special ability, like one can tax more easily. One can, when he moves, take troops with him. That stuff works well, but the theme never really came out. I never really cared what resource I was getting. I just was trying to get the ones that I didn't have. And the buildings had a few minor thematic things, but this is straight up a Euro-style game that's fairly themeless. That being said, it is a good, solid game, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy it. The board where you place things on, the workers on them, that's by far the most intriguing aspect of the game. Obviously, the bigger ones that you place in a column will shoot you to the top. At the same time, putting the smaller numbers down lets you go first, and sometimes I need to move somewhere before I can attack in that area or before I can tax an area. And using the coins lets me shoot a 1 all the way to the top, where I not only get the best action, I get to go first, but I have to spend coins to do that. And so there's that placement of that on the board, the workers on the board, that's like a mini game that happens before the game itself happens, where you move and do all this stuff. And it's more interesting than actually doing this stuff, I think, maybe. Or at least it was to me. The rest of it, building buildings and stuff. And as you get in rounds 3 and 4, you get an extra worker. In the 4th round, when you get that last worker, every space in that board's being used up. And you have to sit there and go, okay, I want to attack twice. Is that even possible? And what numbers do I place and when? And I found that to be a really fascinating part of the game. Like I said, the rest of the game, just pretty much standard stuff. Have control of lots of regions, try to build buildings in contiguous regions across the board, do a little bit of fighting. It's definitely not a game for people who want to get along, because you will get irritated at the other folks. They're going to be constantly going after you. But like I said, it's a really solid area control game, and that board where you place the workers easily just felt cool and neat, and almost dominated the game. Everything else felt like extra stuff on the outside. So all this comes together to make a really good game. Like I said, it's almost too big though. Like look at this, it doesn't feel that big. The game feels like a medium weight game. But I guess who am I to complain about how nice stuff looks? But it does come together in a really solid game. I think some people will be like me. They'll look at it. It's a beautiful cover, but it looks like a lot of other covers, and you might pass on by to the next one. But I think that this designer is going to be one that is going to be slowly growing in popularity as the years go by, and this is another great game from him. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.